It's a recurring pattern in high-stakes moments. The harder you force a relationship, or the more you grind at a failing project, the faster the whole thing shatters. We are conditioned to believe that brute force is the only path forward. If a door doesn't open, the societal script tells us to kick it down with more effort and more hours. The alchemy of balance suggests a different diagnostic. That desperate overexertion isn't a byproduct of the struggle. It is the mechanism that actively destroys your equilibrium. If pure effort is creating the friction that breaks the system, how do you actually win? Achieving impossible results requires stepping away from modern hustle to adopt a counterintuitive ancient mechanic. During the Warring States period, the philosopher Zhang He stood beside a violently turbulent river deep in an ancient gorge. He was fishing with a physically impossible setup: a single fragile strand of silk for a line and a tiny grain of wheat on for a hook. Despite a rage in water, he pulled out fish large enough to fill multiple carriages. The silk stayed intact, the hook never straightened. The king of Chu, watching from the bank, demanded to know how such a fragile thread could withstand the brute force of the river. Zhang He's technique was a demonstration of a specific law governing physics and human psychology. Zhang He identified this principle as Zhen, a state of absolute detached evenness. He did not attempt to match the weight of the fish with opposing strength. In a typical system, extreme localized force creates a single critical breaking point, but Zhang He matches the water's flow so precisely, the tension distributes evenly across the entire silk length. The force has no single point to exploit. Because there is no sudden resistance, the fish swallows the hook without defense, as if it were nothing more than a bubble in the current. This suggests that leverage comes from absorbing and distributing force rather than resisting it. To apply this physically, one must first address the internal psychological operating system. The ancient texts identify the primary obstacle as the Shi Shen, the conscious, anxious ego. The Shi Shen is the part of the brain that panics and calculates. In moments of sudden, intense stress, it is what causes the hand to violently yank the metaphorical silk thread. Zhang He succeeded by switching to the Yuan Shen, or innate spirit. This allowed his hands to react to the river's movement without heavy or light bias. By hollowing out internal desperation, he maintained the mental evenness required to handle external chaos. The river is your career or your relationships. The fragile silk thread is your energy. Every time you act out of a need for control, your ego yanks the thread. This creates a predictable backlash. When you use force to command reality, the resulting tension eventually causes the system to fracture. A master's power is quiet and yielding. It lacks the jagged edges of anxious desperation. Adopting the Zhen mindset, handling life with this detached, even energy, minimizes the friction in your environment. You stop bleeding energy in a losing battle of wills and begin to move with the same efficiency Zhang He used to land his catch.